Good morning, honorable judges, worthy opponents, and the audience. Before I begin my speech, I would like to introduce myself first. My name is Raiza Novia Nijananda. I am from SMA Negeri 1 Rembang. I stand here as the first speaker of the proponent team. I strongly stand the motion this House would prioritize stability and economic growth over aggressive democratic reforms. The definition of aggressive democratic reforms itself is reversed to rapid far-reaching and often forceful changes to a political system designed to establish or deepen democracy, frequently implemented to overturn authoritarian structures or address severe institutional deficiencies. Unlike gradualist approaches, these reforms are often driven by intense civil resistance or urgent elite pacts aimed at forcing swift transitions. However, I believe we should prioritize stability and economic growth over aggressive democratic reforms. I will explain why in 3 points. First, preventing state collapse and violent power struggles. Aggressive democratic reforms in fragile or developing countries often weaken existing state structures faster than new democratic institutions can mature. This creates a dangerous political vacuum where multiple groups compete for power without clear rules or strong institutions to manage conflict peacefully. When political liberalization happens too quickly without strong institutions, different groups such as political elites, ethnic factions, extremist organizations, or even the military began to competing aggressively for power without clear rules or effective systems to manage conflict peacefully. Instead of producing healthy democracy, rapid reforms can trigger political chaos, mass protests, riots, coups, separatist movements, or even civil war. In these situations, ordinary citizens suffer the most because social instability disrupts their daily life, weakens national security, and destroys public trust in government institutions. By prioritizing stability and economic growth first, government can gradually strengthen state institutions, improve legal system, reduce corruption, develop infrastructure, and build public trust before implementing major democratic reforms. Second, stability is the key foundation of democracy. A country can't build a strong, stable, and sustainable democracy on top of chaos, poverty, and weak institutions. In many developing or politically fragile countries, many democratic reforms often happen before the state is fully prepared to manage intense political competition. When elections happen, freedom of political organization and large-scale political liberalization are introduced too quickly. Different groups such as political elites, ethnic factions, religious movements, or military actors begin to competing aggressively for power without strong institutions to regulate conflict peacefully. As a result, society can become deeply polarized, leading to riots, coups, violence, protests, separatist movements, or even furthermore, civil war. In these situations, ordinary citizens suffer the most because insecurity disrupts daily life, damages public services, and weakens trust in government. Furthermore, political instability creates serious economic consequences. Investors and businesses avoid unstable countries because they are afraid of the unpredictable policies, corruption, and violence, which reduces investment, increases employment, and slows the national development. On the other side, the governments would facing political crisis also struggle to provide basic needed for public services such as healthcare, education, infrastructure, and social welfare. This creates a cycle where economic hardship increases public frustration, which then leads to even greater instability. As a result, countries that rush democratic reforms without preparation often become trapped in long-term political and economic crisis rather than achieving genuine democratic progress. For the example, it condition happened right after the RD era shift into Reformation era. There are monetary crises in almost all aspects of economy. The root problems of the monetary crisis on 1998 is because of financial crisis that happened on all countries in the Southeast Asia. But the transformation from the New Order era into Reformation era that worsened it The instability creates economic panic and high inflation and on almost basic needs. Those situations hurt the quality of people's life, especially at those times. Third, stability enables long-term economic success. Prioritizing stability and economic growth before pursuing aggressive democratic reforms is the most practical path for long-term national success because stability creates the conditions necessary for sustainable development, investor confidence, institutional capacity, and social cohesion. When a country undergoes rapid political transformation without first establishing economic security and effective governance, it often faces polarization, policy inconsistency, civil unrest, or even state collapse, all of which scare away investment and weaken public trust. Economic growth generated under stable conditions allows governments to build infrastructure, improve education, strengthen healthcare systems, and democratic institutions in a more informed and resilient way. History shows that many successful economists first focus on order, industrialization, and institutional strength before expanding political freedoms widely because citizens struggling with unemployment, inflation, or insecurity are less able to meaningfully participate in democratic processes. Stability also ensures continuity of long-term economic policies, allowing businesses to plan ahead, foreign investors to commit capital, and governments to execute national development strategies without constant political disruption. Therefore, stability is not the enemy of democracy. Rather, it is the platform upon which lasting democratic success and national prosperity can realistically be built. Furthermore, to successfully prioritize stability and democratic growth is first, the state must strengthen core institutions such as the legal system, public administration, and anti-corruption agencies because stable institutions create trust between citizens, businesses, and the government. When institutions are efficient and predictable, investors are more willing to invest, jobs are created, and economic growth becomes sustainable. Second, government should focus heavily on economic development policies such as infrastructure construction, industrial expansion, education improvement, and job creation. Roads, ports, technologies, and quality education increases productivity and improves citizens' living standards, while employment opportunities reduce poverty and social unrest. Third, political reform should be introduced gradually and carefully instead of through sudden radical change. Expanding political participation step by step allows society to adapt, prevents polarization, and reduces the risk of instability or extremist movements taking advantage of chaos. In conclusion, prioritizing stability and economic growth over aggressive democratic reforms is more effective strategy for achieving long-term national success because stability creates the necessary foundation for sustainable development, strong institutions, and social cohesion. For those reasons, I firmly stand the motion. Thank you very much.